Breaking news story, at least 5 suspected robbers have been shot and killed in Rosettenville, Johannesburg. 2 police officers were wounded and airlifted to hospital. Shawn Herbst, Netcare 911 spokesperson, joining us now live. Shawn, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Details are still very sketchy. We know that the police minister is currently on scene getting a briefing from officers. But what can you tell us about the situation?
After 4 o'clock this afternoon, Netcare 911 had received multiple calls from law enforcement and members of the public informing us that, Wild West type shooting had broken out near the South Rand Hospital. When our medics arrived on scene, they were ushered to a certain area, a safe zone. A shooting had broken out between the SAPS, JMPD, other law enforcement officers, and the suspects themselves. The 2 policemen that were injured, they had sustained critical injuries after being shot in the head and the chest. They were brought through to the paramedics, a safe area. They were treated on scene. Due to the nature of their injuries, we dispatched 2 Netcare 911 helicopters to airlift them through to specialist facilities in the Joburg region. As far as we know at the moment, multiple suspects have been shot and killed. The scene is still ongoing, so we are expecting those numbers to rise. We believe that other policemen have been injured. We don't have any information that any more have been killed, fortunately. But as I mentioned, the scene is still ongoing and is still active, and we're waiting for an update.
So we are hearing that at least 5 suspects have been killed. Can you confirm that at least?
That is correct, yes. 5 have been killed by the authorities.
Yeah. And just in terms of the operations going forward, we know that the police are still in the scene, the area is still cordoned off. But talk us through what you have on standby, just in terms of attending to those who have been injured or shot.
Correct. Well, a boundary has been set, a safe zone has been set by the authorities. We have multiple ambulance services or multiple ambulances, as well as response cars, advanced life support paramedics, still on scene, standing by in case any other injuries were to take place. We have the 2 helicopters that have airlifted the 2 critically injured policemen through to a hospital, and they're still on standby in case anything has to come up.
And let's talk about the specific area, because we're seeing different reports that it's in Rosettenville, and then the police alert is saying in Eden Park.
Well, the information that we received, because the incident actually moved from the original, where it originally had occurred. We were told from members of the public that it started at the South Rand Hospital, and it had moved from there to houses just up the road from the hospital. So yes, the scene has moved as the suspects are running away from the police.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. Let's keep the live visuals up. And I think Sally and I can actually go through this police statement that gives a little bit more information about exactly what happened earlier on today.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I've just been looking at the distance from Rosettenville to Eden Park, and it is about 20 kilometers away. But it does seem like it could be exactly what Shawn is saying, because what this came through sort of after lunchtime. Police in Gauteng are hunting after an innocent bystander shot during a cross-pavement robbery. This is outside a business outlet in Eden Park. This happened at around lunchtime. Group of armed men accosted security officials. Armed men then began randomly shooting. But let's go to the live scene now. I'm sure we're going to get all the details because the policeman, as you can see, is walking towards the camera. And it certainly looks to me like he might be about to address the crowd. We'll keep an eye on what he's up to. But this report on Eden Park also indicates a shooting. So rather in a situation where we've had 2 shootings in a sort of area south and east of Johannesburg, or it's one that, as Shawn said, may have moved from one area to another.
Yeah. And if you are just joining us, it is our breaking news story. We can confirm, according to Netcare 911, that at least 5 suspects have been shot dead by police. A short while ago, that's been confirmed. 2 police officers are in a critical condition. They've been airlifted to hospital. They've been shot in the head according to Netcare 911. And their ambulance services are on standby on the scene as well, just in case they need to be there.
And this Eden Park situation, our producers are on the phones trying to get us the very latest information. What they're saying is that the police have told them that this Eden Park is a separate incident. I mean, we're looking at a situation where we have had really quite dramatic incidents happening around Joburg. We've heard that cash in transit robberies are on the rise, but whatever has been happening in these two areas today is extremely concerning, which would probably explain the presence of high-ranking police officials, even the police minister. You can see there's a lot of personnel there. Walking past that car, clearly, that had been shot at multiple times.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see exactly how the police minister jumped from the hearings into the July unrest very quickly. That was going on up until around 5:30 or so, and obviously getting reports of the situation here on the ground in close to the South Rand Hospital, and then racing over to get an update on the situation. And it seems that the minister has been pulled aside by community members who, Shawn Herbst from Netcare 911 was saying, also called in to say there's this dramatic shootout that's taking place. And he's probably just hearing from them about what they saw before coming along to speak to the media.
Yeah, and one wonders really whether this was a situation where the police had prior intel, because of course police intelligence and what they know is a big hot topic at the moment, or whether they in fact had to respond quickly. I think I can hear the police minister talking. I'm just wondering if our microphone can pick it up at all. Let's just have a quick try. All right, well, we aren't really hearing anything specific from the police minister at this stage. I have to say, Shahan, we do see a very quick response from the police minister in situations like these. And it seems to me that this is where he feels most comfortable, in actually being on scene when things are underway, speaking to the community, speaking to people who've had family members injured or hurt. But certainly, as we look at the police minister in action, we cannot forget that he is facing some very serious charges against him in the sense of, what were the police doing during the July unrest? How badly did the estranged relationship with him and the police commissioner actually affect the ability of the police to do their job during that unrest? How was intelligence such a massive failure that they didn't anticipate exactly how bad things were going to get? So it is certainly, to a certain extent, an embattled police minister who's arrived on scene this evening. And I think what it brings home, Shahan, is the reality that while all these internal politics are playing out within the police, we have a very serious crime situation in this country. We've got the crime stats out on Friday, and that indicated that murders are up, 8.9%. That's over 500 more murders in the last quarter of last year compared to the previous year. So we are looking at an escalating murder situation. And murder, of course, is the one stat we really can rely on. Sadly, many people do not report rape because they just don't have the stomach to go through what can be a very traumatizing legal process. So we're in a context where a Wild West, as Shawn Herbst called it, what people were phoning into saying, a Wild West shootout on a Monday afternoon in a suburban area.
In broad daylight. In broad daylight
is becoming par for the course. I mean, there was another situation in Moffat Park, a different situation, it seems. So certainly we need to see some very big action coming from the police in terms of how they get better intel, how they infiltrate these gangs. It does seem that there was some sort of either hijacking situation, cash in transit situation, some sort of heist, it seems, at this stage. We haven't got all the full details, we have to stress that. We do know that 5 suspects have been shot dead at least, very likely more, possibly as many as 9. And we've also heard that 2 police officers are in a critical condition this evening. We understand they took shots to the head. That is very worrying indeed. We don't have any information about whether any bystanders were shot, which would be remarkable if they were uninjured, bearing in mind that this is a Monday afternoon in a suburb near a hospital. People would have been milling about.
Yeah.
So, yeah, hopefully we'll get more details from the police minister this evening.
And it seems this shootout, of course, with police was also between the SAPS and JMPD. So Metro Police officers joined forces with the SAPS, from what we can gather from Netcare 911, to actually chase after these suspects, 5 of which we've confirmed to be killed. It seems like people are taking pictures with the police minister and the provincial commissioner. Yeah. So that seems to be delaying the minister in actually giving us information that we need. But he is actually walking towards the camera right now. Becky Cele, of course, has had a busy day at the July unrest hearings held by the HRC. Rushing to the scene here now. He's walking towards the news cameras. It's just 12 minutes past 7 o'clock, and we are getting more and more information about this shootout between police, in particular Johannesburg Metro Police as well as the SAPS. And here is the police minister, Becky Cele.
Sure.
All right, so as our camera just readjusts, we are expecting him to speak quite soon about what we know, what has happened here this afternoon. It's certainly a very worrying situation where you can't go about your business without looking over your shoulder, with the possibility of a Wild West-style shootout happening in your neighborhood. Let's take a listen.
You know, give us an update as to what exactly happened here.
Happy, I'm not sure, but I'm satisfied. I'm pretty okay. We are, as we are releasing the crime stats last Friday, we were under attack of the cash heist that keeps going up, and Gauteng and KZN are the sources of this thing. We don't have too many groups that are dealing with this matter. This is one of them. Remember Don Park, this group here, but the police group, they dealt with Don Park, they dealt with this one, they dealt with Midrand. It's quite a group that is successful. These guys, about 25 of them, this group. 8 of them are dead and 8 are arrested. We still want some more that have moved there. Surprisingly, without fail except one who comes from Botswana, they all come from Zim and KZN. Surprisingly. I think 4 of them will be from KZN, the rest is from Zim, and the one from Botswana. They're well armed. They all have mostly AKs, about 6 or 7 AKs here, and with double magazines, which means they are there for the business. Surprising one is the one that shot the helicopter and injured the pilot, and injured the pilot assistant. So we are working with heartless people that are prepared to kill. I asked the one from Ngutu, what is this, what's happening? He said, Njala. I said, come on, man, there is no Njala that buys you AK and all those kind of things and come you kill people. Inside there are 5 top cars that have been hijacked or stolen, and one just wishes that there is no owner of those cars that was killed in the process of doing this. This is a good job, and I think the police, the intelligence here did a good job. This is intelligence-driven operation, and we are going to keep on pumping up our operations until we win this war.
Do we know where they were coming from and where they committed this crime?
Well, you can give details, but as I've said there, if you ask where they originate from, they are from Ngutu, they are from Ulundi, they are from Escort, they are from Beckville, they are from, most of them are from Bulawayo. So, but where they've been operating and where now maybe Provincial Commissioner can give that answer better.
Professor Commissioner, can you just clarify first, before you start, on whether they had indeed been partaking in the criminal activities before they came to this very house?
You see, this group, our team was monitoring them from last week. Their movements, their intention. So last week they didn't commit their crime. They decided today they are going to commit crime. Our team was just behind them. And then when they realized that here are the police, then they rushed out. They were rushing to their safe house. And that's where now our team, highly trained, tactical teams, they've dealt with. It is confirmed that these guys, they are real hard. A number of unlicensed and illegal rifles, which are still lying there. Yeah, we have counted, I think, plus minus 8. And there is another one somewhere on the freeway there, whereby those who were escaping, when they see the police are chasing them, they throw it out of the window. And the vehicles which we have recovered inside that house, all those vehicles are positively hijacked vehicles and high-powered vehicles. So we are dealing with hardcore criminals here.
Commissioner, give us the details in terms of what crime exactly did they commit today that warranted this kind of shooting?
And where?
And
where? No, today they were going to do the CIT. There was a money truck which they were observing they were going to hit it. But because of we had a very good intelligence, our members, they decided that, you know what, prevention is better than cure. We'll rather prevent them from committing that crime. You understand? So when they see our cops, then they started to kill.
No, but for the fact that in our operation there was a helicopter and they shot the helicopter. What more do you want them to do? They shot the helicopter, they injured a pilot even before he landed. It could have been both the helicopter, the assistant, and the pilot all dying. So you really can't ask anything of declaration of war, shooting the helicopter. Besides, there are police that are in hospital as we speak. We hope that they are not serious. But they shot the helicopter before anybody did anything to them.
Minister, we understand that some of the assault rifles that are stolen at some police stations are sometimes used when they do perform these crimes. Is this the case in this instance, or is that going to form part of the investigation?
Most rifles here are AK-47s with double magazines, which means AK-47 takes 30 at a go, which means each one is having 60. But there are explosives here. There are petrol, and there are umuchwenyanga and everything all together. So we'll have to, there is one RO4. RO4 would be used by the defense force mostly. So those will be taken for ballistic, even found with the AKs if they're not coming from the SP13, from our own, or where they got them, and these that belong to the state like RO4, where they got them. But the investigation is going on. We've got a beautiful team of investigators, but the most beautiful team are those that reacted when these guys, they started their nonsense.
Okay. So the last time we heard that one of the people who was arrested was a police official as well as an SAPS member. Is this the case in this instance?
Well, the scene, we usually say the scene is hot. People are still lying here, both arrested and both dead. The guns are still all over, there's blood all over. It will be premature to give that information now.
Okay, and then can you please confirm, is it indeed 6 people that have died?
8, not 6. There are 8 dead, there are 8 arrested.
Minister, how many police officers were injured?
One, I think 2 in the helicopter, and then 2 more, about 4 police that have been injured.
At the moment, how are they coping in hospital?
We're not expecting anything bad out of them. We think they'll be fine.
Was one of them a JMPD official, as we've heard?
Yes.
And where was this truck going to be robbed, this money truck? Where was it going to be robbed? Do they have reasons to believe they are not safe, Minister? Is it one of the most targeted ones?
Absolutely, we're not going to give you that information. That one you're not going to get. There are guys here who have run out and all that kind of stuff. We need to pursue them. We need to find them. There are other groups that are doing the same work. It's enough. Because I heard your question saying that they had to be shot. They shot the helicopter and they shot the pilot. And the pilot has taken his assistants to hospital as we speak. What more do you want?
And you say that you've been keeping an eye on them, Minister, Commissioner. Have you linked them positively to any other crimes at this stage?
You see, these are hardcore criminals. Our intelligence community, they are working on all the groups which we have identified who are responsible for all this horrendous crime. So these ones are one of those.
And talk to us about the strategy to prevent. You said in this instance you had to prevent the crime from happening. Talk to us about the strategy to prevent this from happening. Here we could have had, other people injured.
I will be empowering the criminals if I talk about that.
Sorry. I can't do that.
Thank you very much, guys. We really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Okay. Can we go now?
Thank you.
So that's some quite startling details. It's a gang of 25 people, says the police minister. 8 this evening are dead. 8 have been arrested, and I presume that means the remaining 9 are on the run. Yeah. He says they're from KwaZulu-Natal, Zimbabwe, and also from Botswana. 1 person from Botswana. So it seems that they were keeping an eye on this gang for the last week, and then they pounced today.
Yeah, and it seems that they eventually went into the house they were in because they found explosives. He says petrol was also found there and vehicles that have been hijacked, high-powered vehicles, the minister says, which these men were going to use for this particular situation. Also important to point out that the minister and the commissioner in Gauteng saying that they were about to actually pounce on a cash van, but they prevented them from doing that. And one of the suspects actually shot at the helicopter that was overhead, and that's when police decided that they needed to retaliate.
I mean, that is really astonishing. We're just getting some information about so it is 4 police officers who've been shot, not 2. Shawn Herbst was telling us from Netcare 911 that they were in critical condition. What we are hearing, the police minister saying that he's fairly sure they're going to be okay. We know that 3 of the officers, 3 SAPS officers, are at Mill Park Hospital. We understand gunshot wounds to the chest, shrapnel, gunshot wounds to the arm. So those are 3 police officers. The JMPD police officer is at Union Hospital, shrapnel in the neck and chest. So we're not completely sure just how serious. The police minister seemed fairly certain that they would be okay. Let's certainly hope so. But interesting, the police minister pronounced himself not happy but satisfied. And we were just chatting earlier about the intelligence questions around the police. And this really is on the surface, it looks like a win for intelligence gathering, because this was a big gang, a very bloodthirsty gang, a very serious bunch of criminals that they stopped on their way, apparently, to a cash-in-transit robbery. But it did lead to a very concerning, massive shootout in a suburban area, which is, the tone of the questions at that media briefing. We're going, okay, could this have been done in a safer way, bearing in mind that if no civilians were injured, we are indeed very lucky.
It's very interesting, especially the fact that they call them hardcore criminals, a group of 25 people, and one of several groups, the minister says, that actually targets cash vans in South Africa. And you know that our crime stats recently showed there's been an increase in cash and transit heists. So a tactical team, as you mentioned earlier, actually carrying out surveillance since last week. They expected them to carry out this operation last week, but then they were about to strike today, which is why police decided to actually pounce on them. So these hardcore criminals, 8 of them are currently dead, 9 on the run. 8 are behind bars, and the police minister saying that they will be questioned. Hopefully they'll try to find more people linked to this group.
Yeah.